How nice he's
On November 6th, voters went to the polls and made their choices. And now we're going to talk about those choices and what impact those choices have both locally, regionally, and nationally. Our guest this episode, Patty Martin, chair of the Fitchburg Democratic City Committee and former mayoral candidate, Fitchburg resident, and Flap TV contributor Alexander Vera. Thanks for joining us. So let's start locally.
Thank you.
We'll start with Fitchburg State Rep race, which was Steve Hay versus Elmer Eubanks. I don't think there was much of a surprise there.
No.
But tell me your thoughts. Tell me your thoughts on that one, Patty.
Well, it didn't stop Steve from working and being out there and doing everything he possibly could because he had an opponent. It didn't, and he's been there and he's done so much. But he worked, cause, you know, with meetings, and you could see the energy was there. He was out knocking on doors. It didn't say, like, you know, I'm going to win and that's it. He did not do that. He was out there. We did sign holding. I just think, you know, he is the better candidate because he's, you know, he's between the city council and then being the president of the city council and then going to the state rep job. You know, he did a great job. It was a clean campaign. He just concentrated on the issues. He wasn't worried about any of the background noise. He just, I mean, and I saw that firsthand. So I'm really happy that, you know, it really wasn't a contest, but because he deserves to be there in that job because he's done a lot for this district and he's done a lot for us, and there's a lot more that he can do, and I think he can be the effective one for us for the state rep.
Cindy.
I agree. I agree with all of that. I think, you know, being the incumbent, and he's done a really good job. And I think one of the things that a lot of the newer ones that are coming in, they seem to go like right for the bigger positions and maybe forget to start a little bit like the city council. Do you know what I mean? And get some experience and let people get to know them and then come in there. I think Elmer's a great guy. I'm not surprised that Stephen still won, but I hope Elmer does consider staying and doing something because he's a good person and he's well-intentioned.
Elmer Eubanks was a good guy. You had a chance to meet him when he was here on the show, and you know, he was a long shot. He was an underdog going against somebody who was really entrenched in city politics. Okay, somebody like Steve Hay, who does a really good job. And but Elmer did the things you know that you needed to do especially as a first-time candidate. Is that, you know, talk about the issues that people care about: roads, bridges, schools. Elmer Eubanks has some conservative views. If you read some of his personal opinions, his personal page, okay, but he didn't let that sort of sully the candidacy. Okay, he ran a good race. He ran a clean campaign. And he was fighting an uphill battle. I think, yeah, I mean, to Cindy's point, look, school committee, city council, other ways in which he could get involved in the city. I think there are some opportunities for him. And, you know, he's done some non-elected positions before. He's served in a lot of unelected roles. Maybe continue some of those, maybe start off city council, school committee, something like that.
Alexander.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone has to say here. Elmer definitely worked hard. I think, you know, it was great. It was refreshing to see that race. You know, even though Steve did have the upper hand being the incumbent, I think that, you know, it probably motivated Steve a little bit more and pushed him to work a little harder, just to show the people that, yes, he does deserve that position as state rep.
That race, I think, was certainly an anomaly, both locally and what we see nationally. Really, the trend in campaigns have been very divisive, a lot of negative campaigning, a lot of attacks not only from the candidates but from their supporters, especially on social media.
Yeah.
I saw zero of that in this race.
No.
Zero. It was really refreshing.
Both were very gentlemen.
It was refreshing.
Yeah.
It was boring.
Yeah.
It
It was
was.
boring, especially for us, but it was refreshing. Does anyone have any thoughts on why that was? Was it because their supporters, because we didn't see the background noise from the supporters? Was it because the candidates were being good role models, or was it because the supporters on both sides never really saw it as a competitive race and used their energy elsewhere?
Both of those.
Yeah, I don't think it wasn't as competitive. If you look at Elmer, you look at Steve, I mean, they're very both, you know, they're gentlemen. They're people that, you know, are proud to be from Fitchburg. You know, they are happy to help the community. You know, they want more for the community. So these are honest people that, you know, want to get the job done. And I think that you see that more honest campaigning with people like that, people that are a little more serious, that really, are not going to necessarily, go by with whatever else anyone else has to say. They go by what what they truly feel in their heart.
And your supporters will mimic what you present.
Absolutely.
So if you say, I want to run a clean campaign, we're not going to trash him,
Right.
this is what we want to do, your supporters will do that. It's when both sides start to come out and they start getting a little nasty
We
with
never
each
saw
other.
that.
And no, not with them, but we saw it in others, and the supporters were right there, like with their candidate, and I'm going to go at it. But with them, both of them were very much gentlemanlike.
I think a closer race, you would have seen more tension. Though.
Maybe.
I mean,
Yeah.
a closer race, you would have seen.
I still don't think you would have
it's
seen
human
the
nature.
nasty.
Well, where I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Michael, is when you said Elmer did what he needed to do as a candidate. I would agree that he needed to do what he did what he needed to do if he was running this as just a showcase, as a preview to run for a city council seat. But if he was running this to win, he didn't do what he needed to do. If you're going to take out an incumbent, you need to go after that incumbent. You need to give people a reason to vote that incumbent out. It just wasn't in his nature to go hard on and take those hits against Steve.
He was a little restricted, though, as a public employee. He was a little hamstrung as a public employee in terms of some of the advertising he would do.
Oh, and fundraising.
And fundraising and whatnot.
Right, but
Okay?
he could say whatever he wants on social media, and he didn't take the hard hits, and unfortunately, that's what you need to do these days.
Well, as we're going to talk about a little later, just being a big mouth on social media doesn't exactly get you a win.
Well, that's a good segue, because we had the Fitchburg state rep race, Leominster state rep race, and we talk about, Dickens, A Tale of Two Cities, and now we have these two cities. That was a whole different ball of wax when it came to the tenor, the tone of the candidates and the supporters and what was going on social media. Mike, what was your thoughts on that?
No, I gotta say, and this is something where, I held the candidates forum on this, and what I saw that was interesting on social media, Mr. Palmieri, Richard Palmieri, running against Natalie Higgins, indicated he wanted to run again. Well, I'm going to give him a little bit of unsolicited advice if he wants to run again. They say they don't like our show, right? But we know they watch our show. So here's a little unsolicited advice. For all the supporters you had, Mr. Palmieri, and the work that you did, you underperformed. You were being actually pretty soundly. Frank Ardinger did better against Natalie Higgins 2 years ago than you did in a much more liberal-friendly climate 2 years ago, okay? A big part of it was all the extreme right-wing rhetoric that you and those very close to you sought to pump out on social media, okay? That doesn't work here. Divide and conquer tactics, okay? Alex Jones tinfoil type stuff that you and some of those close to you were supporting, that doesn't work here in Leominster, Massachusetts, okay? You want to, calling us liars, calling me a liar, making up stuff about this show and agendas that we don't have, no, that doesn't work here, okay? You want to run a South Carolina style or Texas style or Florida style race, move there. Go live over there and run a race over there, okay? You're in Leominster, Massachusetts. You know what you talk about? Roads, bridges, schools. So you want to run again next time? Do what your campaign manager, who's a wonderful guy, great guy, wonderful guy, begged you to make peace with this show. You wouldn't do it. So here's the lesson. You want to run again? City council, state rep, whatever. That's what you talk about. Roads, bridges, schools. All those scary looking photos. My wife's an independent. We get all the mailers, right? And all these scary looking filtered photos of Natalie Higgins, all these grotesque looking photos and sanctuary cities and all that. Doesn't work here, Richard. Okay? Take a breath. You want to run again. Talk about things that are important to Leominster voters. Okay? You know what it gets you? It gets you the 43% that it got you. It doesn't get you anymore.
And that'll do it for Flap TV.
Wow.
Thank you very much for joining us.
I guess he
Nothing to say after that.
he had something to say. He said it, so
It feel
He
good?
said it.
I think I'll leave that one alone.
To the victors go the spoils.
I'll say this about the race, and anyone can jump in. Because I did see the post that Mr. Palmieri is looking to look at a city council seat next year and then state rep again. And that's fine. We saw 2 years ago that Dean Tran ran for state representative in a special election against Steve Hay and lost. And then he came back and got a higher office.
Right.
And all candidates should remember that. And all candidates can use these experiences as either learning experiences, or they can dig their heels in and be stubborn. And then they'll just keep losing. And I'll tell you that one of the bright spots that I've seen when it comes to Richard Palmieri, it started last Sunday before the election when I picked up the paper, and there was an article in there where Mr. Palmieri admitted and said that some of his conduct on social media was not the best of judgment, and he worked to correct it. And you don't see that often. Sometimes you see politicians admitting and owning up to their mistakes after an election.
Right.
It's not too often that you see them do that before an election. To admit that they made a mistake and say, hey, this was wrong. I shouldn't have been that way on social media, so I pulled back. So if he does that, if he uses this as a learning experience and hits that reset button, you know, he did serve the country. He did 3 tours of duty. He was in the military for 20 years.
Thank him for that.
Yeah, you know, so if he uses this as a learning experience and moves on, he could have a future. And I was encouraged by seeing that in the newspaper, that he understood that some of his conduct, some of the things that he said in social media and the way he used it was wrong, and that he corrected it during the campaign, and he understands that.
And I think you know, it's probably a learning curve. I mean, like you said, he did 3 tours. He's a veteran, and he served our country, and he did very well. And when you're over there, we don't know what they experience over there. It's a total different lifestyle. So maybe that's just his personality to be a little bit more blunt or aggressive.
But Mike's right.
But like
it doesn't
you said,
work
no,
here.
I know,
Right.
I know. And so it's something that, you know, he will learn it, and if he continues on, I'm sure he'll reflect on this and come at it a little bit differently, I'm sure.
You know, and like you said, sometimes losses can lead you to a different position.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing. I mean, I've known a lot of people that have run for different offices, and then, you know, I said, don't be upset. You know, you lost. It was a good experience. You learned a lot. They ran clean campaigns. But next thing, I'm picking up the newspaper and I'm seeing Assistant District Attorney for Worcester County, Brian DeAndrea, when he ran for Governor's Council. And that was the first thing I said to him was, you know, it wasn't meant for you to win this. There's something better for you out there. And it wasn't even 2 months after the election, and I'm reading this in the newspaper. I'm saying, oh my God. And I called him, and he took my call right away and actually came up to Fitchburg because my son was opening up a graphic shop in Fitchburg. So he had a meeting that night with you know, the mayor and everything else, and he ended up coming up to Fitchburg, and now he's at our Fitchburg court. So, you know, there's always another position. Sometimes it's not meant for you, and other things are out there that are better, and this is much better to do. You know, he's home at night, he can raise his family, he can get married. You know, sometimes these jobs are just not, you know, there's just too much into it. You've got to be out all the time.
But
I mean,
it's about learning.
continual.
And you know what else I like? Yeah. He called Natalie and conceded.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? And that's something that was just second nature back then. There was no question
Yeah.
that the opposition called and congratulated and conceded, made that phone call. I had to make that phone call once. It's no fun.
No.
It's no fun to
I'm
lose
sure
an
it's
election.
not.
Yeah, no.
I know. I've won elections and I've lost an election. And I know what it feels like. So I tend to hesitate from hitting people that lost an election. And that's a tough phone call to make, and he made it. And a lot of people don't do that these days, and they should be ashamed of themselves for not.
Yeah, I agree.
Alexander.
I mean, I really don't have anything to add on that. I mean, I've learned from my experience, you know, running, hitting that high spot, as everyone knows, you know, and that just, you know, made me, I wasn't deterred or anything from the results, but I definitely learned a lot from what happened in my experience, and now I know what to do and what not to do next time. And I definitely think that, you know, it's inspiring to, you know, to others, you know, to see someone lose and then run again, whether it's for the same position or something different, you know, because it just shows that, you know, they actually do want to make a change in the community. They're not just running just to get their name out there.
Good point.
Main event this year locally, Dean Tran versus Sue Shallifu Zephyr. Who wants to grab that one first?
Well, I will say, I mean, I personally voted for Dean Tran. Congratulations, Dean Tran, Senator Dean Tran. He ran an amazing campaign. Something that I really admire Dean Tran, especially something, you know, since he started on the City Council of Fitchburg, he's always, you know, spoken his mind. He wasn't afraid to, you know, question things that were going on in the city, or, you know, he wasn't someone that was just gonna, you know, vote yes or vote no just because of the majority, where he wanted to get a little more understanding. He wanted, you know, the people, the community to know what's really going on, because a lot of times no one, you know, is really reaching out to the community and really letting them know what's, you know, going on. So I really like that about Dean Tran. And, you know, I am unenrolled, so I received both Sue's and Tran's advertisements, and I was disappointed to see that, you know, Sue had a lot of mailers that had, like, you know, like an X on Dean Tran's face and stuff like that. And I'm someone, I mean, from the campaign that I ran last year, I ran a very positive campaign. I didn't have anything negative to say about my opponent or anyone. So I think that, you know, especially in politics is it's a career or a position where, you know, you're in it for the people. You're not in it for yourself. So you got to show the people that, you know, you're willing, right, exactly, that you're willing to, you know, do what's right, and you don't care about what negative things anyone else has to say. You know, you're going to continue on with the mission at hand. So, and that's something that I admire about Dean Tran.
You know, I think you had a great situation in this district where you had two candidates who were both qualified to do the job. Okay, you had two very qualified candidates. I think this is the classic case of Mr. Tran was in there for whatever the partial term that he served. He didn't do anything to push himself out of the job. In fact, just the opposite. I mean, he did do a good job. Some would say, some, including the former state senator, too good in terms of touting some of the things that he did. But you know what? What it does is it illustrates that, well, these are the things that I was able to accomplish in the short time I've had. Well, I deserve a full term. So I think a lot of that is what happened here. I think people, and talk about crossing, you know, party lines. I think, I think he got a lot of crossover support. He got a lot of Democratic support. He got a lot of independent support. And you know, the dealings I've had with him personally, you know, for both, you know, in my town, both my state rep and my state senator, you know, of whom he is, I've had positive experience with him, and I expect that to continue. But I don't, you know, personalities aside, I don't want to downplay the qualifications that Sue Shalf, who's ever had, okay? Because this is somebody who was qualified to do the job, somebody who could have stepped in and done it. But you know what? In the end, congratulations to Mr. Tran, and I look forward to seeing what he can do in a full term.
Most definitely.
Yep, I feel the same way. I mean, there wasn't one more thing that Sue could not have done. She did everything that she could possibly do. You know, anything that came from other people, you know.
She worked hard. Did she work smart?
I think she did. She worked smart. She did work hard.
Then how do we lose a seat? How do the Democrats lose a seat that they've had for over 25 years?
Well,
how do the Democrats lose a seat when the three main cities, Fitchburg, Leominster, and Gardner, all re-elected by pretty wide margins, their state representatives?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people that voted Democrat down the line and then turn around and voted for Dean Tran.
Absolutely.
Why was that, Patty?
That, I think, too, a lot of it was all the bipartisan. I mean, we had the three mayors, Gardner, Fitchburg, Leominster, that showed you could step over the lines and, you know, and all work together with Baker as the governor. I mean, she took all the numbers during the primary, other than Townsend and Sterling. But she won across the board, and he did not win. So during the primary, people that didn't have to really vote for them voted. And she had the numbers, because I have the numbers.
You talk about the special primary, special election primary?
No, the primary in September.
Yeah.
Because we do have that, we shadowed the numbers.
Right, but she didn't have an opponent.
No, she was with, well, I mean, no, she didn't have an opponent, but people voted for her, people voted for Tran, and we had those numbers.
Well, Jay Gonzalez got twice as many votes as Charlie Baker in the primary. You can't use that as
well, that's what I'm saying. You can't count on that.
I've known Sue for 30 years.
You want my water? You want
And Sue is a very good friend of mine.
She
We go
is.
back 30 years. When I left the city council, I asked her to run for my seat because
Yeah.
that's who I wanted to leave it to when she ran and won. So I don't know if people know that.
I didn't know
And
that.
I have
didn't know that.
We have a long relationship with Sue, and she's
Yeah.
great. And she worked her butt off on this campaign. She really did. She put everything into it and left it all on the field. But you need to work smart as well as hard. And I think the mistake that was made here is, and I don't know if it was from within her campaign or she farmed it out to that Boston consulting firm she paid about 20 grand to, but this is not Cambridge. You
Right.
cannot run far left progressive campaign in this area and expect to win. She closed the campaign. She closed the campaign by sending out a mailer attacking Dean Tran for standing up for the Second Amendment. And you flip that mailer over and said that she wouldn't. And then brought Maura Healey in. You don't do that around
Yeah.
here.
Right.
We have over 13,000 people in this district that have licenses to carry, and that doesn't include the ones that don't go through that shenanigans in Massachusetts and just go to New Hampshire and buy one. And those people vote, right? He won by what, 4,000 votes? 13,000
Right.
gun owners, and
Right.
that's how she closes a campaign, by sending a mailer out,
Yeah.
attacking him for standing up to the Second Amendment. This Senate seat has been held my entire lifetime by NRA endorsed candidates. NRA endorsed candidates, Democrats and Republicans. Bob Antonioni endorsed by the NRA. Jim Flanagan endorsed by the NRA.
Yeah.
You want to go before that? Mary Padula, Bob Hall, Joe Ward, all pro Second Amendment. And then they come in and run this Cambridge campaign. And then we wonder why the seat's gone.
Right.
Patty, you're chair of the Democratic City Committee in Fitchburg. What do you guys going too far to the left for the demographics?
Oh, well, I mean, we do. We've worked hard. Since we started. I know a lot of them have started a year ago. Like I said, at the time, we have organized ourselves when we started back the first of the year. That was one of our main things, was to coordinate, because we couldn't help anyone as an unqualified committee of any sort. If you can't help yourself, you certainly can't help a candidate. So that was the main thing, was to do that. All we can do is work and try to help them, but we don't know what a lot of it's going on behind the scene and in their campaign.
You're a loyal Democrat, right? Chair of the Democratic City Committee?
Well, I'm loyal, but I
bet you pack some heat. Do you? You carry?
me. Well, I'm gonna apply.
Awesome.
See, there you go.
I mean,
Lady.
I think a
Take
lot
note,
of it,
Democrats, this is not Cambridge. Cindy,
I
last
think,
word on this race.
I think the same thing. I agree with you 100% on that. I think Dean spoke to the people. He knew the demographics in this area. He got in there, and he didn't have a lot of time in there, and he did the work that he needed to at least show the people, I can do the job. So if you give me another chance, I'll do it. And he spoke to the people, and Sue obviously tried to do the same thing, but like you said, she ran a very left campaign, and I wish she would have gone closer to the center, because if she had, it would have been a much closer race. And
I agree.
I don't know if she thought about that.
When I came home Saturday and got that mailer, I reached out to someone
it's-
very
yeah.
close in her campaign to unleash on him
Yeah.
rather than do it
I think
directly on her.
you gotta be careful.
You know what he
This
said- you know what he said to
district,
me?
you gotta stay
You know what he
center.
said to me? 99% of the people want gun control. That's the kind of bubble.
Yeah, and
I
that's-
couldn't
you just
believe
can't-
it.
That's not going to happen in this area. So whoever it is always needs to remember,
Are you
you got to
kidding
stay
me?
closer to the center.
Democrats have retaken the United States House of Representatives. What does this mean for the country for the next 2 years?
Chaos.
Here we go. Chaos.
Chaos. It's going to be nothing but resist, and nothing is going to be accomplished.
So basically what you guys did for
What?
8 years under President Obama.
I didn't do that, but
You didn't
yes,
do
you're
that?
right. No, I
Okay.
agree.
Cindy, what happened to the caravan? I haven't heard about it on the quote-unquote news.
Well, you don't hear it about it on the mainstream media. Put it on Fox News. You can see the thousands of them coming
No,
over
I
the border.
haven't seen it on Fox either. It's
Oh,
almost like they
yeah.
forgot about
Blind,
it.
turn a blind eye.
Yeah.
They just
Tumbleweeds,
disappeared, right?
yeah.
Those immigrants aren't coming for your Social Security and Medicare.
Right.
Hey,
Your party is.
yeah.
Patty, what does this mean for what does this mean for
I think,
the country the next 2 years?
It stalled him. I mean, and now he's firing reporters and not letting them ask questions because he doesn't want to talk about them. He doesn't want to answer the question. It's all about him. It's all about
Does this mean
him.
he's going to? He fired Jeff Sessions.
It's about time.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, let's hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about time. I mean,
For what, the investigation?
Well, I mean, for someone who, I mean, we're
The
talking about
Democrats
President
didn't
Trump.
like Sessions when he was appointed, and now all of a sudden they're concerned that he's being fired.
He's been doing his job.
Well, my thing was that Jeff Sessions is he attacked marijuana way too much, and I'm glad that's
But we're
out.
talking about
But-
the investigation.
No,
though.
that's fine.
Is
I'm
it going
just-
to?
I'm
I
glad
almost
Jeff Sessions
guarantee
is
you
out.
that it didn't go into
That
Trump's
investigation
decision.
will be completed
No, I'm
by
sure that
Mueller.
didn't, but I'm glad he's out.
So we have a House of Representatives that now has subpoena power. Should they use it?
No.
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 No investigation.
Well, no,
Yeah.
Mueller should finish his investigation.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So if
I
Mueller
would,
is fired, you're gonna stand up.
I would absolutely be very upset if he's
Yeah.
fired. I want that investigation to be complete,
These
and I
things get
want the
taped, right?
results released to the people. I want us all to see what was behind this, who instigated this, what did you find, and reveal it. And if it shows collusion, then do something about it.
Get
But
rid
if
of
it
him.
doesn't, there should be some head should roll.
So don't fire Mueller.
No, don't fire him.
Absolutely not.
I agree.
Absolutely
Yeah,
not. Let him
Alex,
do
I
his
want to ask you a
job.
question, 'cause we're running out of time here, because this is something, okay? Because we talk about the Democratic Party and where they're going, and the Republican Party and their efforts to reach out, okay? You, openly gay, you are Latino, and you basically voted for every Republican on the ballot. The
No, I did
Democrats,
not.
the Democrats are you are the base, you are the demographic they're trying to reach out to. Obviously, they're not connecting. Why? Why did you vote for Dean Tran? Why did you vote for Elmer Eubanks? Why did you vote for Rick Green?
Okay, put me on blast out there.
I'm with you though, honey. I'm with you too.
It's okay.
And I voted for some Democrats.
I have no shame. You know, I did vote for Jay Gonzalez, you know, for governor, but I did vote, like you said, Dean Tran, Elmer Eubanks, Rick Green. You know, when it comes to the congressional race in the 3rd district here, I did speak to Lori's. You know, at first I was going to be a part of her campaign and everything. But ultimately, you know, I went more on Rick Green's side just because, you know, I met him. I liked what he had to say. You know, I liked the fact that, you know, he came and he interviewed, and, you know, just some of the things that I was hearing from Lori's campaign just wasn't sitting well with me. And like, to my point, I like positive, honest people, you know, good people that, not saying Lori isn't, but I just like campaigns that, you know, are positive, you know, campaigns that are going to show solutions. Don't just show the problems and attack people for, you know, creating them or what have you. You know, show solutions, show us, you know, okay, this is the problem, but this is how I believe we can fix it by doing the A, B, and C, you know, and I think that, you know, these politicians, you know, should do a better job of doing that, like, you know, Dean Tran's campaign did, you know, so.
Working together, that's the key.
Right.
Absolutely.
We're getting tired of people that are resistant on both sides. I agree. Republicans did it with Obama, and the Democrats are doing it
'Cause
now.
we're not getting anywhere that
And we're
way.
not getting anywhere.
No.
Somebody's got to step up, and there's got to be compromise on both sides to get something done.
And it won't be the
Exactly.
president to step up because it's all about him.
We've got enough
Ego.
people in
Right.
Congress to do it.
Well, I mean,
Let's
and,
do it.
and now, I mean, shout out to all those women who made history, a diverse group of women. Not only are they
110
women,
and veterans.
but they're diverse. You know,
Right.
I mean, we have our first Muslim Palestinian American woman who's going to serve in Congress. Our first Latina woman from Texas. I mean, the youngest woman from
woman,
New York.
absolutely.
I mean, there's so, and I just hope that motivates people
118
everywhere
women, that's a record.
to be able to, you know,
Absolutely.
diversify the city, especially here in Fitchburg, where we have such a huge diversity. And you look at the council, you look at the leadership, and
And
it's
we've
all the
done
same.
it here in Fitchburg. We've done it with, you know, with the diverse group that we have. It's been going on forever, since we were children. It's been going on. So
Yes or no? Is Elizabeth Warren running for president?
I'm sure she's testing the waters.
That's not a yes or no. Is
Well,
she going to run?
I think she is.
Cindy,
Without
is
a
she
doubt.
running?
Without a doubt.
Is she running?
No.
I don't think so.
She's going to
She's
run
running.
and she's going to lose.
She's running.
She's
That's
running.
it. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye, Lizzie.
Good night.
Good night. What a great